After the United States and Ukraine sealed the deal on a 30-day ceasefire and Zelensky managed to get back American military and intelligence aid, all eyes are now on Russia. What would Vladimir Putin do? Would Russia agree to the conditions put forth by the United States? While we don't have official answers to these questions yet, multiple reports coming out of Kremlin suggest that Russia has rejected the 30-day ceasefire, and Putin's foreign advisor has emphasized on a permanent ceasefire agreement. Russia has also once again presented the US with its own list of demands to end the war. It's not clear what exactly Moscow has included on this list or whether it is even willing to engage in peace talks with Kyiv. But Russian and American officials have been discussing the terms over the last few weeks. In fact, Steve Witkoff, Trump's war envoy, is en route to Russia to put forth the Ukrainian conditions. Remember, Russia had three key conditions that it presented earlier. This included no NATO membership for Ukraine, an agreement not to deploy foreign troops, and international recognition of Putin's claim that Crimea and 4 provinces belong to Russia. Even though Trump and Putin are seen as being close in the last few days, remember, the US president has been threatening Russia with sanctions. In fact, in his latest, Trump said, and I quote, "I can do things financially that would be very bad for Russia. I don't want to do that because I want to get peace," unquote. So are we finally getting peace with an end to this war, or would Russia not budge from its position? Before I introduce my guests on the show, take a look at this report.
After more than 3 years of a brutal war, a historic shift in diplomacy, Ukraine and the United States have finally struck a deal, setting a new course in Ukraine's ongoing battle against Russia. The meeting took place in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, a far cry from the tense diplomatic clashes back in Washington. In a dramatic face-off, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky walked out of the Oval Office without an agreement, leaving tensions high. It was a fiery exchange, with President Trump famously warning Zelensky that without US support, Ukraine wouldn't last 2 days against Russia. And now, in an unexpected twist, Trump has proven himself as the peacemaker, facilitating a breakthrough between the two nations. In this historic meeting, Ukraine has agreed to a 30-day ceasefire proposal, signaling a willingness to de-escalate the conflict. The United States, in turn, has lifted its pause on intelligence sharing and resumed security assistance to Ukraine. Shortly after the talks, Zelensky expressed optimism, stating, and I quote, "Ukraine is ready to accept this proposal. We see it as a positive step and are ready to take it. Now it's up to the United States to convince Russia to do the same," unquote. This meeting in Jeddah marks a key diplomatic breakthrough. Donald Trump hailed the talks and stated that he will talk to Russian President Vladimir Putin over the peace deal. Now the ball is firmly in Russia's court. With mounting international pressure, Moscow's next move could determine the future of the conflict. Will Russia choose diplomacy and peace, or will it continue its aggressive path? The fate of Ukraine and the region now hangs in the balance. Will this moment of peace hold? Only time will tell. Bureau Report, Mirror Now.
All right. On the broadcast, I'm joined by Grigory Pelman. He's founder, One Future Forum. He's going to get us the Russian perspective on this entire talk that will be happening in the next few days. Grigory Pelman, good evening, namaskar. Thank you very much for joining us on Global Mirror. My first question to you, Grigory, what are the expectations? We just heard from Vladimir Putin's foreign advisor a short while back saying that Russia is going to be rejecting the 30-day ceasefire and instead emphasize on a permanent ceasefire agreement. What are your expectations in the next few days from these talks between Russia and United States?
Thank you for this opportunity to talk about this subject, and very important subject. The processes start to be going forward. It's very important moment that United States convinced Ukraine just to start talks, start to talk about the ceasefire and the peace in Ukraine region. Definitely, it's just the beginning of the process. You know that just at this moment, Mr. Steve Witkoff from United States, the representative of Mr. Trump, is just in Russia in conversation to talk about the condition from the Russian side. And we need just to underline two main subjects. One subject, that the process of negotiations about the peace, about future peace, and the ceasefire starts. And the second point, that it's just the process, what will take time, because Russian side need just to explain on what condition it could be happened. It's a question about participation, about NATO in Ukraine, about the territory, and about the language and other conditions. So I estimate that it's quite positive steps. And from the side of United States of America, from Mr. Trump, he's a reasonable, a rational person, and he understands what does it mean to make a deal. Deal, it's an agreement between two sides. And now it's a ball, as you said, on the Russian side, and the Russian side will express their wishes and their conditions.
You know, Grigory, one of the things that this entire war has been highlighting is the fact that Russia doesn't want Ukraine to be a NATO member, and that is a condition that it has put forth as well in front of Ukraine, as well as the United States of America. There are other conditions as well. But do you not think that agreeing to a 30-day ceasefire would perhaps be a first step from the Russian side as well to end this war? Yes, there needs to be a permanent ceasefire, but this perhaps could be a first little step towards peace?
It's an important step, but again, it's a step of the process of the peacemaking, of the real peace. And just also it's necessary to understand the conditions from the Russian side, because Ukraine side could use this time just to get additional military support from the global West, and also just to have a refreshing of the army situation and make a dislocation. So it's not just a simple way. Look, you need just to take a decision. We already have a proposal for 30 days ceasefire. I am sure that the Russian side will explain different conditions, and they could be not very easy for the Ukrainian side, and it's the process of for negotiations.
Okay. You know, of course, the Kremlin spokesperson has also said that Russia is going to be freeing the Kursk region soon. So that is, one step that Russia has taken, at least, towards easing tensions. But I want to shift our focus to Donald Trump as well, Grigory, and talk about how Donald Trump is perceived as being close to President Putin. But in the last few days, he's been firm in how he's approaching Russia. He's threatened Russia with sanctions. He's now said that, if Russia doesn't agree to the deal, I have things that I can do financially which might harm Russia. What are the concerns in Russia as far as Donald Trump's statements and threats are concerned?
Yes, I understand these perspectives, and really America and Mr. Trump can propose new sanctions and implement new sanctions and financial sanctions. It also could be that United States of America just to start to develop their oil fields and to increase their oil production, and the price for the oil could go down. But we need to look on this situation that it's very complicated role for Mr. Trump. He needs just to show to all the humanity, to all the world, that the process is going. That he promised his plan just to make a peace in Ukraine, to make a deal. So and he just must be a strong person to show to all over and to the media that he is going and follow his obligations to the Americans and to the world populations, and just to try to find a solution for the global peace. But at the same time, he is a real rational businessman, and he understands how it's possible to make a deal. Deal, always an agreement with problems and with a lot of compromise between two sides. So it's now a process that Trump and the American side and everybody is waiting for answer of the proposal of the conditions from Mr. Putin. And I think today we will get some proposals, and this will be the process of next step for negotiation and to find the compromise in this deal.
Sure. Of course, it's going to be a long, drawn process. We're not going to be seeing the end to this war, overnight. But as far as Russia is concerned, Grigory, many say that it has now become more of an ego battle for President Putin than it is about, fighting this war and about NATO membership for Ukraine. Many also say that Russia itself is suffering so much. The people are suffering so much. You're also borrowing soldiers from North Korea and other countries. And therefore, it is only logical to take more and more steps towards peace instead of fighting this as an ego battle.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Nobody wants war, and the Russian people and the Russian government and Mr. Putin don't want to go in this way, just to fight and to have a war. And you're absolutely right that Russian side would like to find realistic and rational conditions for to make this peace. And I think just the process of these days about the situation in the Kursk region. And the next step, I think, after the meeting with Mr. Steve Witkoff, it will be next step of the telephone negotiation between the team of the Mr. Trump and Mr. Putin. As I know, this telephone negotiation even never stopped. So they try to find the conditions, and you are absolutely right that nobody wants that people in this military conflict will die from Russian side, from Ukrainian side, from international force if they are there. So it's our dreams, but everybody is very realistic, and so we are waiting for the conclusions and decisions of negotiation in the Kremlin. What is going now? What will be the proposal from the Russian side? It will be not done immediately, but it's a very important step.
Sure. Yes. Okay, we'll have to wait and watch how this really concludes these crucial talks that are going to be happening. Thank you very much, Grigory Pelman, for joining us on Global Mirror and sharing your perspective. Let's hope the world sees peace soon.
Yes.
Moving on, ladies and gentlemen.